Capitol Report is a production of Senate Media Services.
The governor and legislative leaders react to the riot in the nation's capital, and Senator Tom Bakk pushes for prioritizing rural broadband. Plus, the Senate elects a president and an introduction to another newly elected senator. Stay tuned for this week's Capitol Report. Welcome to this week's program. I'm Shannon Loehrke. Last week, we showed you the election of Senator David Tomassoni as Senate President Pro Tem. Days later, the Senate pivoted and elected a Senate president.
Mr. President, I nominate Senator Jeremy Miller for President of the Senate. Jeremy Miller has been our president now and has shown us what it's like to be fair in that role as president, to listen to both sides, and to do this role of bringing us together and making our process works in a way that's professional, but also the fact is, I think, respected on both sides of the aisle. I greatly value his ability to run the Senate the way he has.
I nominate Senator Bobby Joe Champion.
I'm rising to support the nomination of Senator Bobby Joe Champion for President of the Senate. I've known Bobby Joe, Senator Champion, for many years. He's a very hardworking and sincere legislator who works hard for his district in the state of Minnesota. He strongly believes in our traditions, but I do think it's time for us to start a new tradition, and that is to elevate someone from our body who represents communities that have not previously been represented here in this body to a very great extent. And I think that Senator Champion knows the rules and will do an excellent job as our Senate President, and I urge all of our members to support him.
There being 38 votes for Senator Miller and 29 votes for Senator Champion, Senator Miller has been elected President of the Senate.
Senator Miller, do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and to discharge faithfully your duties as President of the Senate to the best of your judgment and ability? So help you God.
I do.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
And on Monday, what has historically been a fairly amicable discussion of session priorities was instead a reaction to the rioting at the U.S. Capitol and the demonstrations at the state capitol and the governor's mansion.
This country, is founded on basic rights, and one of those rights is the right to peacefully protest. And I think we have to protect that right and make sure that people always have the opportunity to do that. But I also think we have to speak out against violence, against rioting, against looting by whoever does that. And the protest that was here at the Minnesota Capitol apparently was 100% peaceful.
Fundamentally, there's a difference between, as we've discussed, peaceful protesting and a right to free speech. But we also know that there are well-recognized limits on that speech when it comes to inciting violence and terrorism. And this isn't just a matter of what's going on here in the state of Minnesota. It was clear that leaders within the administration, President Trump himself, his attorney, his family, were using very insightful language. And I think we may need to make sure that we all stand strong and say that that's unacceptable, and that here in Minnesota, we're going to set a completely different tone. And I also think this conversation about the issue that underlies this entire episode that we're looking at right now, which is this questioning about the election, is a real problem. Basically, those have been allegations of allegations of allegations.
We have to remember what's happening right now is a very different situation than freedom of speech that we didn't like this summer and that was problematic and worthy of condemnation this summer. What we're talking about is an attack on democracy. The fundamental tenets of our society are respect for the rule of law and free and fair elections. And there can be no quibbling. There can be no equivocation that it is at all correct for anybody to turn to violence as a solution to the result of an election that they don't believe in. We have a situation where we have members of the Minnesota House of Representatives who gathered at a gathering called Storm the Capitol while the United States Capitol was under assault. So you can bet we will fully investigate and find out exactly what was said and done and whether any of that was worthy of prosecution.
Like 4 years ago when Clinton and many folks that supported her felt like the election was stolen from her here. Now you have on the other side the same issue from the other side. And anytime you have a very, very, very close election, you're going to have a lot of frustration. And I think it's important that we listen. And that is what I'm doing. And at the same time, I'm not defending bad behavior from anyone, from the president, but we've also mentioned all the other ones that I think have had bad behavior. A sitting member of our state house right now, and a whole bunch of other people that have either said things or not said things when they should have stood up. And so we've got to figure this out. I'm committed on my part. It is not just one side, though. If I hear that it's only one side, I'm going to stand up and point out all of the violence and lawlessness through months and months. And then we have this terrible day at our national capital that we have to stand up against. It's not okay. It is serious, and it grieves my heart, the whole thing.
The election has been decided. It was free and fair. Every state did that. Just because you're angry with the result of it isn't an excuse for what's happened. And now we're seeing an equivalency. The United States Capitol was stormed by people who were intent on killing the vice president, the Speaker of the House, and our other legislative leaders at the urging of the President of the United States. Regardless of what happened and the idea that think of any of this as peaceful, I take real umbrage with the idea that what happened here at our Capitol on Wednesday was okay, because the result of that in that language of taking the governor and his family prisoner, and there may be casualties, resulted for the first time the State Patrol entering the living quarters and removing my 14-year-old son to a safe location as he's crying looking for his dog, wondering what's going on. And as far as condemning things, certainly that has to be there. But this denial of the rhetoric that was pushed from the president continues to be pushed, that there was a fake election to undermine our system, is simply beyond the pale.
The governor's task force on broadband recommends continued funding for the border-to-border broadband development program. That recommendation has made it into bill form, and I spoke with the Senate author, Tom Bakk, this week. Governor Walz issued an executive order in 2019 to create a task force on broadband development. That report came out recently, and you're proposing legislation based on the first recommendation of that report. But before we get to that, I'd just like you to comment on the irony that the COVID-19 pandemic required that task force to do their work remotely when so many people don't even have access.
Well, first, thanks for having me on, Shannon. You know, the pandemic has absolutely highlighted how inadequate broadband is across the state. And especially we see it in our schools. My own school district, where my sons went to school, the school superintendent is actually in today's Mesaba Daily newspaper on the Iron Range, saying that about 80% of the school district is considered unserved, which means they have really, really poor service or none at all. I think as we move forward, more people are going to be working from home. There's going to be more opportunities for kids to distance learn from home. And the internet is really the superhighway. And I've seen it on Vermilion this summer. I live up on Lake Vermilion. And I've never seen the lake so busy, and I've lived there my whole life. And I can only attribute that to the fact that an awful lot of people from the Twin Cities or other places are actually living up at their cabins for the summer, and they're able to work from there. And I guess if I had the choice of, not that Edina is a bad place, but if I had the choice of spending the summer in Edina looking out at the street, working, and I had a cabin up on one of the northern lakes, I'd probably choose to be at the cabin too if I had internet service. So I think employment is going to change for Minnesotans. More people are going to have an opportunity to work from home or from their cabin. So access to broadband is going to be critically more important, I think, going forward.
Your Senate district is arguably some of the most beautiful and remote land in the state, and the picture behind you is worth 1,000 words. A new cell phone tower is planned for your district, and that has brought up some controversy. Attractive rural areas, as you just said, that have solid broadband are going to bring people from all over, especially if remote work becomes more acceptable and a new normal. Is there an environmental downside to broadband expansion?
Well, I don't think there's an environmental downside. Getting towers built has been a real challenge in northern Minnesota. It took us several years to get an AT&T tower built east of Ely. There's a lot of people live out there, a lot of businesses out there. They didn't have cell service. Even getting cell towers has been a huge challenge in northern Minnesota. A lot of people come to northern Minnesota, come there to look at the dark sky, and they don't want to have a red blinking light somewhere. But really for public safety purposes, for emergency services, cell phones are pretty critical infrastructure, and broadband also. So I think people that come there to recreate just need to keep in mind, a lot of us live there. And, we should be able to have broadband, and we should be able to have cell service too. And we shouldn't be disadvantaged by where we live. Governor Walz ran on the premise of one Minnesota. And while, we don't have one Minnesota if we don't all have cell phone service, or if we don't all have broadband service. And there's a lot of work to be done to expand even cell service in rural areas.
The first recommendation of the report to the governor and the legislature is what your bill is, Senate File 22. It would fund the state's border-to-border broadband grant program at the rate of $120 million per biennium. According to the report, 157,000 rural households remain unserved. How far does $120 million go?
Well, it's not going to get the job done, but there is federal money on the way also, upwards of $40 million a year for the next 10 years. And I think people just need to remember what we're trying to do is create an incentive for private services to get into areas with less density. And, we wouldn't have electricity in these rural areas, but for the Federal Electrification Act. And it's going to take the same kind of partnership between state, local, and the federal government in order to get broadband out into these areas, because there just isn't the kind of density. It doesn't make sense. I have CenturyLink. It's not the best service. It needs to be better, but it's something. But I don't expect these companies to plow in fiber in places where it doesn't make any financial sense. They're investor-owned businesses, and they have to have a return. And so to get service to these areas of lower density, it's going to require some help from the government. And this isn't going to get us all the way. We started this back in 2014 when Governor Mark Dayton created the Office of Broadband over at the Department of Economic Development. I was the leader of the Senate then. We put money in 2014 and 15 when that was first created. We've been putting a little money in, 10 to 20 million a year, but at way too slow a pace to get this built out. So I'm hoping with we've got a very, very significant budget reserve in Minnesota. The budget reserve is not easy to spend because it's one-time money. This is a one-time use. So I think anybody that says, well, the state's got big budget problems, there's going to be no money to do this, I think is dismissing the fact that this is one-time spending, like building a bridge. And this is not an ongoing cost for the state. So, you're always at some risk when you tell people what your number one priority for this session is. But for me, as far as spending goes, this is really, really important. And I think it's important to an awful lot of Minnesotans, especially when even people in the Twin Cities that have lake places up in the lake country. I think it's probably all important to them. So I don't think it's even just a rural issue. And certainly when people travel, they want their cell phones to work. And a lot of people have personal hotspots on their cell phones and can get their internet that way. So I think it's clearly a statewide issue, and we're going to work pretty hard to get something done on it. I've talked with Senator Gazelka about it. He's certainly open to doing something significant there. My House author, Representative Eklund, has carried the bill a number of years over in the House, and I know he's got intention of leadership over there to get something done. So I do think it'll be successful this session. The question just kind of is, you know, you can only build out so much at a time because of just the fiscal constraints of you have to have contractors to do this work. So it's not as though we could just snap our finger and build out everybody that's unserved. It takes construction crews to do that. So we're limited a little bit by just based on what we have for construction capacity. So it's going to take a number of years, but we have to have a better effort than we've had. And I just want to thank Governor Dayton for his effort back during his years. And a guy by the name of, that nobody on the call or on TV probably knows, a guy by the name of Rick King, who was, I believe he's just now retired from Thomson Reuters, but he was the chair of that broadband task force that Governor Dayton put together over at the Office of Broadband for several years, and he may still be, I guess.
Senator Bakk, I hate to interrupt, but I want to ask you one more question because I've got you here. And it's been a few months since you made the announcement along with Senator David Tomassoni that the two of you were going to form an independent caucus, that you would leave the DFL, form your independent caucus, and then caucus with the Republicans. From your statement at the time, you pointed to the extreme partisanship, both nationally and Minnesota. And in light of what happened at the U.S. Capitol last week, I wonder if you remain confident in your decision?
Well, I think it was a good decision. I think most people are disappointed with the sharp rhetoric, the bitter partisan divide that exists. It's breaking friendships between people. Politics has gotten so overly partisan. But I think, you know, as it relates to Washington, D.C., or as it relates to, you know, what we experienced in Minneapolis this summer, I think rather than talking about the incidents, horrific as they were, both of them, we need to figure out as elected officials what is going on that so many Americans are so angry, and try to figure out how we start to address that. And you know, I don't think you can, the events that are happening, I think, are symptoms of a larger problem. And, you know, we can treat the symptoms and rebuild buildings and things, but the underlying problem is there's a lot of people angry in this country in both political parties. And it's showing up in our politics. And I think that's why you've seen the legislature and federally become more partisan. Because I think people in this country are becoming more partisan than ever in both political parties. And, you know, there's purity tests now in both parties. If you can't meet our test, we're going to primary you and we're going to take you out of office. And it seems like as a country, in politics at least, is we're losing our ability the will to find consensus on issues where not everybody's happy with the outcome, but they're okay. But you don't have to run the table all the time, which I think is what is getting pretty entrenched in our political parties. Is it's got to be my way or we're not going to do it. And there's a place to find consensus, but you know what, it's really hard and you got to work really hard at it.
Senator Bakk, I want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me on.
The newest senators are getting settled in as we continue our series of conversations with newly elected members. This week, I spoke with Senator Ann Johnson Stewart about how her career as a civil engineer and educator will contribute to the work of the Senate. You, a DFLer, ran for the seat vacated by Paul Anderson, a Republican, to represent District 44, which includes Southern Plymouth, Northern Minnetonka, and Woodland. You easily won this election. So what part of your message do you think resonated most with voters?
Well, thank you, Shannon, and thanks for having me today. Well, I think my resume really helped a lot. So I have a pretty unusual resume. I'm a civil engineer. I also own a small business. I employ 30 people, and I have taught for many years at the University of Minnesota and other tech colleges, and I've done a lot of workforce development. So I think my varied experience, as well as the fact that I raised children in the school district, you know, all 4 of our kids went to Wayzata Public Schools. My husband and I have lived in Minnetonka for over 25 years. I think all of that made it really easy for me to relate to people, both on a professional and a personal level. Frankly, I also think people are really drawn to my engineering background because, especially with civil engineering, because people, you know, drive on roads, they flush toilets, they, you know, see bridges and, you know, different states. I think there's always a lot of questions for us. I've seen that my whole career. And so I always had something to talk about with people. And so frankly, I think my relating to them on a personal level, whether it was, you know, a subjective or an objective topic, was really helpful.
Now, as far as I can tell, this is your first foray into politics. What inspired you to run for the state Senate?
So, as I said, I'm a civil engineer, and several years ago, my professional organization called the American Society of Civil Engineers graded all of our nation's infrastructure on a state-by-state level. And as I saw that report card and I saw you know, information about that, I was really dismayed, but also affirmed, because I knew this to be the case, that our infrastructure is in really bad shape. In Minnesota, we got an average grade of C, but for example, our roads and our drinking water systems were graded less than that. It was only because our airports and some of our other infrastructure is better graded. And I started to think, you know, I've always been frustrated that we don't have more support for our infrastructure. And after seeing those presentations, I started to think we need an engineer in the legislature. So I looked, and we do have one engineer. Melissa Wickland is an electrical engineer, but we didn't have any civil engineers. So frankly, I started to look around and try to see if I could find somebody to run, and it turned out to be me. So I think it's really important to have a civil engineer at that level to do 2 things. Number one, advocate for our infrastructure, but also to explain why, you know, sewage pipes corrode and why we can't chance it. You know, there's some things that are just too important. So that's what motivated me. And, you know, I'm 56. I've built this company from 1 person to 30. And I've taught at the university a long time. I'm just so excited to do something different in my life that is positive and fun and fulfilling. And this just feels like the perfect next step for me.
The first thing I saw on your campaign website is the statement, "Ann is a bridge builder." Now, this is both figurative and literal, as you have described, because of your civil engineering background. And you've already talked about how your point of view will be important at the legislature. You've been here for a few days now. Are you getting the sense from your colleagues now that they're really going to embrace this real-world experience that you have when it comes to building things and infrastructure?
So yeah, I actually have. You know, yesterday I talked with Tom Bakk for a while. He has a construction background. And, you know, honestly, I think for me to be able to talk the talk, it elevates my credibility. You know, last night we had a meeting with some transportation people. I have a very deep background in airports. And so, you know, I said, are we working with general aviation or Part 139? And the guy went, you know what a Part 139 airport is? You know, it just, knowing the language, understanding a little bit the funding, which I by no means am an expert, but I think it brings credibility that I actually understand what I'm talking about. And then the other thing that has helped me really is my job. What we do here at this company is we serve as a representative of the owner for civil engineering projects. So like on Southwest LRT, we're out there making sure that the project gets built according to plans and specs. Well, that means I've always been in the middle between the contractor and the owner. And so my whole career has really been collaborating and compromising and advocating. And I see that as really a parallel job to being in the legislature. You're trying to find common ground.
Higher education is facing some significant challenges for a number of reasons. There are funding shortfalls. There's the changing economy, the cost of higher education, and then not to mention the as yet unknown consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic on our higher education systems. Because you've taught courses at the University of Minnesota and other various technical colleges, what is your view about the direction, the changes that higher education maybe needs to take into consideration?
So I have taught at the U for over 20 years, and I've taught the last 2 semesters. I'm not going to teach this semester, but I have seen a big change in my students. So last spring, when we started in person and we moved to COVID, I saw a lot of problems from my students that they didn't get it, So I had 24 students in one class, for example, and 2 of them would show up regularly for my online sessions. Now I just finished fall semester, and this time I had 22 of 22 show up every time. So number one, I think, or in answer to your question, I think students have figured it out. Higher ed is more than just communicating information from one mouth to another's ear. And so, I went to a very small college, which was different than the University of Minnesota. There's still that component of undergraduate education where we're making sure that students understand a really important thing. And that can certainly happen over Zoom, but there's lots of classes where that doesn't really happen. A lab class, it's very difficult for me, and my class was a lab class, by the way, very difficult for me as a teacher to, sit down and help or sit down and hear a student. So I think there's a lot missing. I also think there's a lot missing from the interaction of student to student and student to teacher. And then the last thing to point out is, the University of Minnesota, for example, is a huge research facility, and so, or institution, I should say. So we can talk about what's happening to higher ed in terms of student experience, but then there's also this research component. And so I think we will see changes, and people will, find that online learning is appropriate for some classes. And absolutely, I agree with that. But I also think that it's not true for every class, and we're going to have to be judicious about how we address funding challenges and other things to make sure that we don't lose educational quality. So I think we're in a transition time, but I don't think it's not seamless, and it's for sure not going to be one or the other. Is that clear? Did I make my point? Okay.
Yes, I think you made your point, and we're actually out of time. So Senator Ann Johnson Stewart, I want to thank you so much for your time, and welcome to the Senate.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Join us again next week as we delve into more topics affecting Minnesotans. I'm Shannon Loehrke, and on behalf of all of us at Senate Media Services, thanks for watching.